Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's great to be with you this Friday morning. Today is June 6th, 2025. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central, Mondays through Fridays, and talk about strategies and tips, techniques, share success stories. And today we're going to actually do a knowledge assessment. We're not necessarily going to teach you all these topics, but I would like to assess today if you have a good baseline knowledge of how to be successful. So we'll get to that in a moment. Before we get to that, we always like to start our sessions with the most important underlying rule or principle that if we don't agree on this, frankly, nothing else matters. And it's in writing here highlighted. The number one rule for getting money to start or grow a business is you must have a fundable business to get business funding. You will run into a lot of people that are not as sophisticated as you, not as financially literate as you, and they will either not understand this rule or they'll choose to dismiss it. Just get me money, get me money. But it doesn't work that way. And so we need to educate them, and we'll address that today in the assessment. So the great news is, as of June 1st, just a few days ago, less than a week ago, our grant had been modified whereby now you and I are actually giving away Shelf Corps. And so with that, that has opened up amazing volume for many of you. Where it used to be under the old model to average a Shelf Corp a day was average, now averages multiple deals per day, which is great. We're helping more people, you're making more money. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with our knowledge assessment. As I ask these questions, it would be great if you typed your answer into the Q&A, but if you prefer, you can at least think of the answer. So let's get started. What is it that we do? What do we do? You and I working together, what do we do? If you had to reduce that to writing or at least a concise response, what do we do? Well, first of all, our goal is to improve financial literacy because an educated customer is our best customer. A lot of people, as I mentioned a moment ago, they don't know what you know. They don't know that there's a formula for funding. They overlook this rule. So it's not their fault. Just as a system, as a country, we don't do a good job teaching the basic principles of financial literacy. So that's the first thing that we do, and that ties to the grant we received as a 501c3 nonprofit. Secondly, we create a fundable business. And that makes sense, right? Because we said if we don't have a fundable business, there is no funding. So notice I didn't just say that we improve financial literacy and we provide funding, because that is already available. There's plenty of places in our economy to get funding if you have a fundable business. So the problem that we're solving is really getting people a fundable business. Then we can get the funding, but we need to have a fundable business first. All right, so that's question number one. Hopefully you scored well on that. Let's move forward. What are the key questions that you should be asking a prospect? What are the key questions? Number one, are you looking for funding to start or grow a business? It's not how tall are you, what your race is, what your credit score is. No. Are you looking for funding to start or grow a business? Do they have a problem that you and I can solve? What happens after that if they say yes? If they say no, say, well, good day, have a great day, talk to you later. You need to go find a prospect. So secondly, I gave you a little brief preview there, didn't mean to do that. Secondly, do you have a fundable business? Because what did we already establish multiple times? You don't just get business funding. You don't just wish for it. You don't just pray for it. You just don't hope or dream about it. You need to have a fundable business. So you're going to ask them, do you need funding to start or grow a business? Oh, great. Okay. May I ask, do you currently have a fundable business? You know as well as I know, most people don't even know what that means, but it's opening up the conversation, the dialogue, then you can educate. And then next, give them the blank check question. We had a blank check training, I guess a week or two ago. And it's the concept that if you were to give a blank check to a client, what number would they write in? How much financing would they like? Because I don't want you to think that our program has some maximum. It doesn't, as much as the client wants, and of course, as much as they qualify for. So the third question would be, if I were to give you a blank check and you could write in any amount you want, how much would you want to start or grow a business? So we've identified that they have a problem. They want money to start or grow a business. We further elaborated on the problem that they don't have a fundable business. May have to educate them a bit here. And then now we're quantifying how much money they need. And then next, we want to know, what would it be worth to you? So if I could fix your problem legally and ethically, what would it be worth to you to have a fundable business that could go get that large amount of funding? So now you're quantifying their perceived value, right? And if they come back and forgive me for saying it, if they're a dumbass and they say, oh, zero, it'd be worth fucking zero to me, then you got to move on, because that's essentially the same as them saying no, they don't need help. But a logical person wouldn't say zero. A logical person would be able to put some number to it. And as long as it's at least $500, then we're good with the free Shelf Corp, because that would cover the processing fee. If you're adding money to the top of that, let's say you're selling it for $9.99, you're marking up the processing fee. As long as they say 1,000, now we're in game. And for anyone to not value us solving their problem at least 1,000, they're probably not very sophisticated. You probably need to move on. All right, next question. What are the two phases of implementation? Number one is we need to get them a fundable business. It's all ties together, right? If we don't have a fundable business, there's not going to be any funding. So they can either buy a fundable business from you, the Shelf Corps, or we can use the 4-week funding to build, to create one. But that comes first. After that, then we can go to funding. You'll really have to be diligent in getting people back to reality, because so many people will be focused on number two and they'll dismiss number one. But number two is not going to happen if we don't have number one. So we need to first get a fundable business so they can buy a Shelf Corp from you. Grant covers it. They just pay the processing fee. You pick what that amount is, or we can do the 4-week. Most of you are going to use the Shelf Corp. Once they have the Shelf Corp, now we've got a fundable business, then we can go to funding. Just need to be very clear that there's two phases, and there's actually two different contracts, right? So we use a Shelf Corp agreement for this. You get them under contract, and then we have a funding agreement. So two phases and even two contracts to better differentiate the two phases. Okay, next. What are the two options to get a fundable business? It's buy or build, and that kind of ties into what we just said here. Again, they can get a Shelf Corp from you, or we can build one through the 4-week funding program. Now, regarding the buy option, which is the Shelf Corp, what are the 3 economic benefits? And this is a huge question. I don't think many of you know the answer to this, or you're not proficient in sharing the 3 benefits. And that's a mistake. They need to understand the value proposition. So there are 3 economic benefits of them getting a Shelf Corp from you. Number 1 is, of course, then we can go get funding or financing, right? That kind of ties into everything we said. But there's more than that. There's more than just that. And if all that you're leaving them with is just that, you're missing out on the value proposition. It's more than that. It's also collateral. We include collateral for free with the Shelf Corp. That's a big deal. The collateral's real. It's accounts receivable. We can liquidate it for them. That's above and beyond. That's not instead of number 1. That's above and beyond. And then thirdly, they're getting a real company, A management consulting company. This isn't just some three-ring binder they put on their bookshelf. It's a real business designed to earn income, and it's actually designed to earn 1.2 million a year. So if you went out and bought a franchise, a McDonald's, a Domino's, an oil lube place, you wouldn't buy it just to leave it dark and not operate. So it's up to them if they want to operate their business, but it kind of makes sense. So there are three economic benefits. If you're not sharing all three, you're really missing out on explaining to them the real value proposition. Okay. Next, how much do you make as a reseller? Grant coordinator means the same for selling each Shelf Corp. Well, there's two answers to that. You determine how much you want to mark up the processing fee on the front end. So you determine how much you make up front. It's up to you, not up to me, up to you. You know your cost, anything above that, that's your profit. And then secondly, as long as you're in the reseller marketing program, then you're getting the 5 points. Donald asked a great question, and so that's why I said earlier. So there are two phases of implementation. We need to get them. I'm going back because of Donald's question. So we need to get them a fundable business. That's normally done through the Shelf Corp. And then we go to funding. He's asking, is there a funding guarantee for number one? No, because it's not going to funding. The funding guarantee is, yes, absolutely in writing, but it's in the second phase. First, they need to have a fundable business. Then we go to funding. So, like I said, Donald, two different contracts. So, no, when they get a Shelf Corp itself, it doesn't promise any funding because it's not the funding vehicle, it's the infrastructure they need. The funding performance is in writing, the guaranteed, but that's the second step. So thank you, Donald. And you might have been testing me. You might have known that answer, but it's very important to understand there's two steps. When you look at the Shelf Corp agreement, there's no reference that we're going to help you get any money because that's not the step we're in. We need to provide them a fundable business, then we can go to funding. Because some people only want one. Some people don't want us to do number two. Some people don't need number one. They already have a fundable business, so they can go right to funding, which we'll talk about more in a moment. All right, next. What is the best tool to use to explain the value proposition? I believe it's the comparison sheet, the comparison tool. All of you should have that. It was sent to you. If you don't have it, text us, but that's the best way to do it. We had a whole training on that. Next. If a client already has a fundable business, that's what we were just talking about with Donald a second ago. If they already have a fundable business, do we try to go sell them a Shelf Corp anyway? No, we're not going to go try to sell things or resources or programs to people that don't need it. That's not honorable, and we don't need to do that. That's why we have it broken down into two steps. If they already have number one taken care of, then we just take them to funding. And we've had training on that. I'm going to tell you again. You go to 4weekfunding.com. Uh-oh, went way ahead. 4weekfunding.com. And it's number 8 on the list. They can go right to funding with no upfront cost. So if they already have number one covered, don't try to don't fix it if it's not broken. We need to take them right to funding. You still get your 5 points. They have no upfront cost. All right, so with that being said, our resources and contact information is the same. Our main way of supporting you is through texting 903-347-8042. Some of you don't get it. Some of you call that number. It's normally not answered. It's not meant to be answered. We have different phone numbers that are answered. This is a tech support line. You can email us. You can schedule calls. If you're not currently a grant coordinator, you can come to 509pacific.org, fill this out. What's it cost you? $0. It costs nothing to be a grant coordinator or reseller. There's not even a damn contract you have to sign. We're giving you everything. We're lifting up our skirt and showing you the goods. All you do is come over here and fill this out. We'll send you an email we call the implementation kit, and you're open for business. Now, there's training and there's the editable contracts, there's resources, but I mean, I don't know that it gets any better. And then, of course, if someone's looking for a free Shelf Corp, they can either buy it from one of you, or they simply can come to 509pacific.org, click on this, Now, I'll go ahead and click on it for the purpose. We were just talking about the comparison sheet being a very important resource a while ago. Well, if you're using the RMP, the reseller marketing program, we build all this for you. If you don't want to use the reseller marketing program, we provide you the editable documents, including the flyer, which describes what they get. It includes the comparison sheet, which I was just referencing to. So let's go back over here. Remember, my answer to that question was the comparison sheet. We've had trainings on this where you can walk people through, and number one, it explains what they're getting, which is helpful, but it's designed psychologically to help them objectively compare what you and I are offering, column one, with their other options. And it includes what their cost is. Now, again, the Shelf Corp comes free, but there is a processing fee. You control how much that is. You can mark it up however you want. But the bottom line is this gives them a really nice understanding of what they're getting. uh, we all have pet peeves, right? And I think Claude's pet peeve is when his lobster bisque isn't the right temperature. For me, my pet peeve is when people ask me, people meaning you all, our distribution partners, what's included? It's like, holy smokes, Batman, how can you not know what's included? Because number one, it's on the damn flyer, which you have or should have. Number two, it's on the comparison sheet, and then it's in the agreement. So then the agreement goes on down and it gets to Exhibit E, E, E with all the free resources. So everyone should be crystal clear what's included. And if not, read the damn agreement, right? Okay, so with that being said, I guess we got distracted here. If you want a Shelf Corp, it's here, or get it from a reseller, be a grant coordinator here. And the last thing is we post our trainings up on YouTube. Okay, so we have a question. If being a reseller is free, why are they getting an invoice? You will never, ever, 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 how many more times? Ever, ever, ever get an invoice from us for signing up as a grant coordinator slash reseller. We won't do it because there's no cost. If someone's sending you an invoice because of this, I don't know what to tell you. It's not us. Now, some things aren't free, right? We had a whole separate training on the reseller marketing program. We told you how you could get it free, but you got to earn it. If not, and the reseller marketing program's the landing page and drip marketing and all that. So you can either pay for it as a refundable deposit or earn it and get it free. But there's a written agreement. So if you want to use the reseller marketing program, there's an agreement that you would sign. And I'm getting a question, well, why did they get an invoice for signing up for the reseller marketing program? Because that's the deal. Now, if you sign up for the reseller marketing program, which is a separate training you can go see, we offer a fee waiver. But to me, the most amazing thing in life is how people will go sign an agreement and then they act bewildered of, why did I get an invoice for that? Well, if there's, again, let's look at this. Are we giving away the Shelf Corps because of the grant? We absolutely are. We absolutely are. However, is there a processing fee? Yes, and it says it on the flyer. You are responsible for paying a one-time processing fee. So it's not like a bait and switch. No, there is a process. I could give you a piece of real estate, or you could give me a piece of real estate. So the transaction itself is free, but we're still going to have to work with the title company and get it moved from one party's name to the other to establish ownership. A business is the same way. You can't just, oh, I give it to you. It needs to be documented. And so the legal team charges for that. I'm sorry, but that's the way the legal world works. So we need to cover our legal fees for transferring the ownership of this business and these assets. That's what it is. They need to pay that. If they don't want to pay that, then they must have a better way to go solve their problem. But it says it here. It says it here. Now, again, you can mark that up if you want, and it certainly says it in the agreement. So I'm bewildered by people that will sign an agreement, they get an invoice, and they're like, "What's that?" Oh my gosh. But you got to present it properly, right? If you present it as we've got a grant, which is true, we've got a grant that'll provide you a Shelf Corp with all these benefits for free. All you need to do is just pay the processing fee for the legal team to move it into your name. People will sign up like buying hotcakes. But if all you do is, oh, you can get a Shelf Corp for $500, I mean, that's still a good deal. But now it's really diminishing the value. The Shelf Corp is $10,000. They're getting it for free. All they're doing is paying to get it changed into their name. Well, I don't want to pay to have it put in my name. Then it's not going to be your business. It's going to be someone else's business. How's that going to help you? Right? Doesn't make sense. Okay, so let's see what else we have. Carlos says he will be signing up for the Express Shelf Corp. Okay, well, that's here, or he's either a reseller doing it himself. So, okay, great. Thank you, Carlos, for doing that. He was just letting us know he's going to do it. Lamont asks, can you clarify, is this included in the nonprofit program such as onboarding? Oh my gosh. Yeah, Lamont, I apologize. We may have to visit individually. I don't quite track what you're saying, but I feel like you might be falling back into the trap that I just said. Is I feel like you're roundabout asking what's included, but there should be no question of what's included, right? We don't want any vagueness. We want 100% client satisfaction. We should be able to deliver 100% of the time what we promised. And let's go back to those notes. So there's two elements, right? Two phases. Let's go back to that. First, they need a fundable Shelf Corp. If they already have one, great. We'll use it. They'll go right to funding. And we had instructions on that down here. But if not, normally they're going to get a Shelf Corp from you. We get the Shelf Corp over to them. The deliverables are normally in 7 days. I believe there's a 0% risk that we can't deliver that promise 100% of the time. Now, could it be 8 days? Could it be 6 days? Sure. But we can deliver number one crystal clear. Then number two, then we need to go to funding. That's where we will get a funding app from them. And then we need to work with them to figure out their mitigating circumstances, because this is always the same. How much money they want. Remember that blank check analogy? We need to figure out how much money they want, what they're going to use it for, called the usage of funds. There's variables involved with number two, but our funding team, we all came from the SBA, and maybe you like that, dislike it, but Chuck, Mark, and myself, we all came from the SBA, so we're competent, qualified, motivated, committed to doing number two, but they need to have a fundable business first. All right, with that being said, I hope you all have a great day and a great weekend. You have our support line, 903-347-8042. Have a great day today. Be successful, take action, and we'll see you back Monday morning. Thanks, everyone. Bye.